Hi everyone, this is Mr. Furkowski. Happy Ice Day to you. Unfortunately, just due to the short number of days that we have left, even though this is 120 days until the AP Gov exam, we still have a lot of content to recover. So this is going to require some effort on your part today, maybe about an hour or sometime before Thursday or Friday, because you don't want to be overwhelmed. So my advice today is just watch this video and get through what we have to, and then you're good to go. Just a couple of remarks. For this Friday, you will have to read and outline pages 480 to 500. If you have a different book, just finish where you left off in the part one of the outline and finish it to the end of the chapter. So it starts with the bureaucracy as implementers. It's somewhere midway in the bureaucracy chapter. So you're just going to finish that to the very end. So what I'm just going to detail for you today is just a brief PowerPoint, and then I'm going to ask you to watch a clip of The Daily Show dealing with the Department of Veteran Affairs. Also, there's so much going on this week as well as next week. I will be absent Tuesday and Wednesday. This Tuesday and Wednesday, I will be in the school building, but not in class. You will have 3 assignments that you will need to complete, and you will need to use your time effectively. The first one is going to be the bureaucracy of a pizza assignment. And please listen very closely to these instructions, otherwise you're going to be doing more work than you need to. It's similar to the bureaucracy or the regulation of you assignment, but you're going to look at essentially the bureaucracy of creating a pizza. So you'll have 10 different links here, and you'll see how each federal agency or department regulates each pizza component, from a cardboard box to anchovies, pepperonis, and so on. So down here on the second portion, and you'll have this provided to you, the card box, what department or organization, and then tell me how they regulate that. So it's not really all that difficult. And then the third page is questions for discussion. Each one should be answered in full sentences. It should be complete. Don't give me 1 or 2 word answers. And we will not be doing the 4th page on this. So just disregard if you're opening this up on a computer. So you're only going to be doing pages 1 through 3. And the first one's just an intro page. So you'll look at how pizza is over-regulated to some extent. The second assignment that you have is more of a reading. It's a reading here about bureaucracy, and essentially what you're going to get from it is whether or not bureaucracy does more harm or does more good. Do we need it? Do we don't? Do we not? So you're going to read the text provided, and then be prepared on Thursday for a graded discussion. Basically what's going to happen is I'm going to put you all in a circle, and I'm not even going to be asking you questions, you're going to just be discussing this. So if you're not prepared, you're going to get a very bad grade. If you are prepared, you're going to do really well. So it's just like a conversation. So please have those assignments ready for Thursday. So it'll be the exact same assignments for Tuesday and Wednesday, and have that ready for Thursday. We have a lot to cover then. And then Chris Monchire will come in on Friday, and we'll also do a little bit of review. So again, you have a lot of work coming toward you, but you have all Tuesday and Wednesday. You also have today. So with that said, I'm going to segue now into the notes. Please follow along. This is very short, and because we will not have time to cover this in class. This will not by any means be covered in class, because just due to time constraints and the number of snow days that we have had at this point. So, we've been talking about the federal bureaucracy, and if we look at some of the functions here of bureaucracy, they have a lot of discretionary authority, but the amount of discretion they have over whatever, it could be a regulation, it could be over a law, it really depends on what Congress and the President and the Supreme Court provides them. So, for example, if Congress passes a law, it can narrowly define what they have to do as the bureaucracy, or it can be very broad, and this gives them a lot more freedom and latitude to basically do what they want and interpret it as they see it. So again, remember that bureaucracy is basically, they are the action figures of government. They are responsible for the nuts and bolts of executing policies. And again, remember, policy can be made by the Congress as a result of laws. It can be by the President as a result of executive orders. It can be by the Supreme Court based on saying, hey, how you're regulating the environment is unconstitutional, this particular law. So again, Certainly, these are all of these branches are making policy. It's just the bureaucracy that's implementing it. In terms of implementation, the first step would be creating and assigning an agency to the policy, and that would be basically the role of Congress's job. In addition, you will see that the bureaucracy has to translate the policy into rules, regulations, and forms, and then ultimately coordinating resources to achieve its goal. And ultimately, implementation is the stage of policymaking that takes place between the establishment, essentially Congress, and the consequences of a policy that are going to affect people. Okay? So they are sort of the go-betweens. Again, but they are not linkage institutions. So bureaucracies as implementers, why the best laid plans sometimes flunk the implementation test? Well, the program design can be flawed based on a specific policy, that it has to do some arcane regulation or rule. It could be unclear. Again, sometimes Congress, will make laws that are, ambiguous, they're broad, they don't give a lot of direction. So you have a lack of clarity. I mean, you don't really know what direction to go. And sometimes Congress purposely does that so that if the program fails, people don't look at Congress to blame, they look at bureaucracy to blame. Other times, laws might be in conflict with one another. So certainly that can, um, result in a implementation that's not going to be all that great. Other times, you don't have enough resources. You may not be given enough money. You may not have enough staff to even carry out the goals. So again, these are some of the major reasons. In addition, you will also see that resources also include having a trained personnel, having a proper equipment. In some cases, they may even have they don't even really have the authority to do something. That might have something to do with another bureaucracy. So again, they can certainly flunk easily, even though on paper they look great. Also, we have all heard this term before, standard operating procedures, SOPs. You have uniformity to complex organizations, so you have to do this the exact same way across the board. These are, standard operating procedures. Well, it doesn't always work for every single person in every single department because, again, different departments have different rules. They act differently, so not, one set of rules is going to necessarily work for everyone. So again, that can also lead to implementation not really working all that well. In terms of administrators, you have discretion as the authority to select among various responses. You have street level bureaucrats who have a lot of discretion. And keep in mind that discretion is, of course, greatest when SOPs are not prevalent. So if you don't have to, adhere to standard operating procedures, you can essentially go rogue to some degree or use your own judgment. So again, SOPs do matter. Probably another reason why a lot of plans do fail is what's known as fragmentation, is when you have one policy or several policies spread out amongst many agencies. So a good example of this is if you look at the number of department and agencies with responsibility for border security in 2002, these are everything. These are everyone. So everyone from the Department of Treasury with the Customs Service to the Department of Agriculture to the Department of Defense was to some extent responsible for border security. I mean, look at how policies just for border security are fragmented across many, many agencies, and that's sort of an issue. That's, a new policy that's going to be implemented. Well, how the Department of Defense interprets it could be different than how the Department of State implements it. So certainly a number of problems there. And for our last slide, one case study, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, is a good, law to look at, in which it was a very clear law because it had a clear goal and what it was intended to do. So it was going to stop poll taxes, grandfather clauses, basically any obstacle to voting for minorities. The implementation was extremely clear. Those carrying out the law had obvious authority and vigor to do so. So certainly the bureaucracy was motivated to do that. That can also be a big factor, but also having the authority. If you don't have the authority, if you don't have any muscle behind what you're doing, you can't do anything about it. So the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is generally considered a success. It is clear. Everything's clear. When, things aren't fuzzy or gray, they tend to work out a little bit better. So that's where we'll end with the notes today. But again, just to reiterate, please read in outline pages 480 to 500 for Friday. Also, you have your work here for Tuesday and Wednesday. That work on Tuesday and Wednesday will all be due on Thursday. Should you have any questions, please email, but please get ahead on this work as it will be very important, and also expect a quest sometime next Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay? Have a great ice day, and I will see you this week.